Ladies and gentlemen, we have a real treat tonight here on Sportswire Radio. We conclude our second of back-to-back shows getting you ready for Dominant Breakout Wrestling's biggest show in the company's history yet, called World War. And our guest has really been a man. If you think about over the past month, we have spoke about him with wrestler after wrestler, including the man he is going to square off with for that DBW World Championship. And safe to say, most people don't seem to think A, he should be in this spot, and B, actually come away with that DBW World Championship once again. But he's going to tell us why we're wrong. He's going to tell us why he's going to come away and win in the biggest show in the company's history. And his background speaks for itself, and he has done it all pretty much here in DBW, and that's why they call him the Blaze. But he needs no further introduction. But because everybody else here on Sportswire Radio gets that introduction that they so everly deserve, he's going to get it. So, with wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one. Global Sports Show. The number one contender to the DBW World Heavyweight Championship. And the newest member of Ego. They call him Blaze Ace
Yes, sir. Hype me up. Hype me up.
I bet you don't get those too often. I've kind of watched you enough in the ring. You have some good announcers, certainly in DBW and VTW, but we wanted to give you that big, grandiose entrance because it could be the last one you got coming up after the 23rd of September. But I'll let you obviously tell us why we're different. But first of all, no seriousness, it is a tremendous honor to have you. You have definitely proven yourself that you have done a lot of great things over the past several years, especially in DBW. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the opportunity for having us here on Sportswire Radio with you.
I appreciate you having me on here, man. Nothing else to really be said. But I mean, yeah, nothing really else to be said. But yeah, thank you for having me on here, and I'm ready to kick things off.
All right, so obviously we've got all that stuff out of the way, and certainly we'll talk a lot about World War, biggest show in the company's history, but you are basically going to have all eyes on you, the Blaze Ace Christian, because you are in the main event for the DBW World Championship against the Prophet of Purgatory, the man that is the final boss, the man that has showed himself. His dominance speaks for itself. A man you know very well, and certainly after what we saw at the end of Double Cross, I mean, he certainly put a number on you. So I have to ask you a question that I think I've asked people here on Sportswire over the past week and other wrestlers, but I'm going to ask you this question specifically for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio and fans of DBW. The Blaze Ace Christian, do you believe in miracles?
Well, I certainly do believe in miracles, and I think I know where you're getting at with this. However, winning this match would not be a miracle, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, this is not the first time I've squared off with my dad in the ring. Second off, this is not the first time I will have beaten him, because I've beaten him 2 consecutive times that we've been in the ring in DBW. And number 3, like I said, it's just no miracle, because what happens is going to happen. And what's going to happen is me winning the world championship yet again, proving that I'm the best in DBW and in this area.
Okay, I got all that, and there's no question you know your dad better than anybody would, because obviously he's your dad and you've lived with him all your life. I got all that stuff. But from what I've seen, objectively speaking, and hearing from some of the people that have been in the ring with you of late, including the likes of Brandon Castelli, our guest yesterday, the It Factor Cyrus, I think right now Mr. Judgment is on a whole nother level. And in fact, I've even said this when Mr. Judgment was here. I would say pound for pound right now in this entire sport, I think he's one of the best big men right now. And he's at the top of his game. And he's in the best condition, the best shape, and he's dominating more than he has ever had at this point. So you might have beat him a couple of times in a row, but from what I've seen from him the past few months, there is nobody that compares to what he's doing in the ring.
I can respect that. I can respect that for sure. I will give my dad the credit he deserves. He is one heck of a player in the game. Definitely one of the best. No bias thrown there. However, he is at the top of his game right now, doing the best that he's ever done before. But let's not forget, I am also at the best of my game. So me personally, I know you said that he's on a whole nother level, but I personally think that I at least am on the same level as him, if not even higher, because I still got a whole life ahead of me when it comes to wrestling. Because
No,
I'm
you do.
still
You listen. I will give you this much, that you've accomplished a lot in your young life. There's no question about that. What you've done in the ring, you remind me in a lot of ways of a UK wrestler I have spoke with several different times. A guy named Two-Bit. They call him the Rat King. And when I had him on, he was like you, a younger talent, and now he's going on and actually wrestled in Progress Wrestling, which in the UK has actually been on the WWE network. So I definitely see in your ring set, I see in kind of the way you come across, that you've got some of those kind of similar sets that will probably get you to places that'll be very, very high in the world. But again, I still say at the end of the day right now, you've got a lot to prove here right now, because Mr. Judgment, especially after we saw the last DBW show, I mean, he laid you out and put a number on you and basically said, and he said it here also, he is going to put you in the ground. I mean, what is your reactions and how are you feeling from all of that, sir?
How I feel about that is that's something that a man wouldn't do. So, and if anything, that's something a coward would do. Because that's not the first time it's happened to me. I've had people like Matt Moore come in and interview my match with Thomas Taft.
Yep.
Ruin my chances against the Hub City for the Hub City Championship.
Yes, and that was a title you had set your sights on earlier in the year. Sure, absolutely, no question.
It would have been nice to have that title, but everything happens for a reason, and the reason is we're here right now. But that's not the only time it's happened. It's also happened after my match with Matthew Moore with Brandon Castelli. He came out after my grueling match with him and blindsided me. But the thing with that is I was able to cash out that check, if you know what I'm saying. So he got the upper hand on me that time. But when that gauntlet arrived and me and him were finally one-on-one, it was game over for him.
All right, I have comments. I'll come back to them in a second, but let me ask you this question. You talk a lot about how you do it for the fans. The fans are the people, and they believe in you. You do it to beat the people that they want to see you beat. It's really all about the fans for you. We know that next week, September the 23rd, there is going to be a crowd like we've never seen here before in DBW. This is the biggest show in the company's history. Is it fair for me to say that you're going to need every single bit of that electricity in that building next weekend, and you're going to need every single fan to kind of cheer you on to get past Mr. Judgment? Is that a fair statement for me to make?
That is a fair statement, because that's like it, like every match. But
yeah, but this one's different though. This one's different. It's a different feel. This is not like another DBW show we've ever had.
That's definitely where I was going with that. So, yeah, any other show is a big show for sure, but World War is our biggest show of the year. Our WrestleMania, all that funny stuff. But like, this is going to be the biggest event in the history of DBW. Not like
Exactly, and I've been saying that here for the past several weeks because I really feel like there's just a whole different electricity right now in this company. I mean, you think about the live band we're going to have, the sponsors, the type of enthusiasm. I mean, to me, this is kind of like, I know you've been here before, you've been a world champion. I'll ask you questions about that, the Blaze Ace Christian, but I feel like going into this match, there's a lot of pressure here because you're going to see people probably watch or watch you guys on YouTube that have never watched you guys before. So there's a lot that's, I think, on the line in just everything you're going to go through here. And that could work either two ways. It could work for you or it could work against you.
well, I mean, this is almost like any other match. However, it's just a different show, and it's definitely going to be a different feel. However, people all over the world are going to watch online, and I know that. But it's more important about the in-person feel, and I know not one person is going to be rooting for Mr. Judgment because everybody knows what I can do. Everybody knows what he can do too. Don't worry.
Oh, listen,
that.
I've said it before, and I said this, I think, last night with Cyrus even. He's like a video game. What he does in the ring, his moveset, it's so creative. I mean, for a big man, I don't really think in this sport, and, I know I can say this pretty confidently. I speak with a lot of pro wrestlers around the world. I speak with guys in the UK. I speak with guys that have wrestled the likes of Alexander Hammerstone, who was just recently the MLW World Champion a couple different times, and what I see from Mr. Judgment is a guy, for a big man, I haven't seen anybody really in a long time that does what he does in the ring. So, I mean, he's not going to need the fans. He's basically going to just use what he does in the ring, and he's just going to do what he said here. He's going to try to put you in the ground.
I mean, I'm not really too worried about what he says because I don't know about any other guys, how they like to do it, but me personally, I don't like to really talk online or do all these videos and all this cheap shot crap. Like, I like to do it in the ring, and I like to say it to their face because I know how a man acts. And
You do. I'll give you that. Well, listen, you know your dad better than anybody, but I still say your dad is certainly one individual I wouldn't want to mess with. And I want people, by the way, before I get to comments, follow DBW on YouTube, please. A dominating Breakout Wrestling with almost 3,300 subscribers have subscribed and liked everything that DBW has to offer. Also, Facebook, go check them out because this is a company, like I said, to me, this is the gold standard of wrestling companies. This is a company that you're going to really want to join the movement for. It's a special company. Just go ahead and follow those pages here. But, I have a comment here specifically from this individual who was here last night and spoke about the it factor, Cyrus. And basically, he's got a good question here, and I'm going to let him say it. Absolutely big fight feel, but can you live up to the hype? Your response to that?
My response to that is I am the hype. I am the hype. Because whenever I come out through that curtain, what do you think? Hype. Because
you're a highlight reel. I got that. You're a highlight reel.
Exactly. See, you know what I'm talking about. But about living up to the hype, like, there's really nothing else to say other than I am the hype. Yeah, my dad's the world champion. He has all the spotlight. He is arguably one of the best running factions in DBW. However, that is other than #ego. Yeah.
I was going to get to that. I was basically kind of waiting for that, but you basically kind of segued right into it because we know the last time we saw you put on that ego shirt. You put it on with Mr. Havoc and the tag team champions there, and you're, I guess, the fourth member now of Ego. So I guess I'm going to have to ask you, I mean, how does it feel now to be a member of Ego? And I'm sure that you're going to be counting on them for as much help as possible and to even the odds, especially because we know Divinity is going to be lurking.
Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure. Being a part of Ego, I never thought it would happen.
Yeah, you were kind of like not sure. I was like, we were speaking off the air, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring this up, but I'm just warning you. Like, I think a lot of people, even when you put the shirt on, they were like, is he going to do it? Is he in? Is he out? And it reminded me almost in a way of like when Sting joined the Wolfpack. DDP, when he refused to join the NWO, it was like you were almost like you couldn't get yourself to do it, but I guess you finally relented. So tell us why.
So the reason why I joined Ego is because I have been a part of a couple different factions. One of them most recently being the Dawn's March.
Yep.
But some like I said, something about Ego was different. Like I never envisioned myself joining Ego whenever they first came around, but they kind of grew on me. Like I started to respect them more and more and more every time they started to show up, and they were there. Yes, they were bad guys at one point, but they changed. And
They have. They've done it for the right reasons now. They're doing it because they believe in the cause. And they've also, by the way, hold some gold, the World Extreme Championship and the tag titles. And maybe you see that and say, you know what? If they've got gold, they help me. I can have gold, and maybe we can be the premier faction in DBW.
Yeah, that's something that I have a mindset going into this match as well. All my guys have championship gold, but like I'm the odd man out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I brought that up. Maybe that's why it factored into you joining into Ego, because you know what? You looked at it again. I know you've held gold before. You've been at the top of the mountain, but again, I mean, they've got the tag titles, they've got the World Extreme title, and you know what? It's worked for them. Maybe this will propel you on the 23rd of September when the show is actually live and we watch it on the 14th of October. You're going to be at the top of the mountain. You're going to be the guy that everybody looks at in this sport and says, you know what? The Blaze Ace Christian, he's at the top of the mountain, and Ego certainly played a big role in that.
Yeah, and about that too, like, yeah, this is something. Like, this is a big deal. I feel like people overlook this, but it's literally like the Royal Rumble win, because you're getting a shot. You're not only getting a shot at the world title, but you're getting a shot at the world title at the biggest show of the year. But like about the match itself with my guys and my dad's guys, Mr. Judgment's guys, I'm not really. I don't plan on relying on them too much, because I know they got their own business to handle.
They do, but you know that Divinity is going to be lurking. You know that they're going to be there. You just know it because we always see Mr. Judgment with them. So, I mean, you have to not have that in the back of your mind.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how much, stamina they will have after that, after the tag match, the tag title match. But like I said, I'm not really relying on my guys too much, but I mean, I just got to be ready for anything.
Oh, no question about that. And let me get to some more comments here. I want to say hello to Mr. D-Lock here. We know him very well, obviously, in VTW, another company that you're obviously a part of. My younger brother getting the spotlight he deserves. Glad to be able to tune in tonight. And I want to say hello to him as well. And obviously all the great people in VTW, another great company, by the way, VTW, which works very well with DBW. Really one of those other companies that is the gold standard, I think, right now in this sport. But I got another question from the same individual that I certainly want to ask you and get your thoughts on, sir. Does Ego need Ace Christian, or does Ace Christian need Ego? What's your response to that? That's a great question.
That is a great question. And my answer to that is neither.
What do you mean?
So the reason why I say neither is because with the other thing I like about Ego is there's no definitive leader in my eyes anyway.
Yeah,
you could say Roland Havoc is the leader because he's the singles competitor, but
he's the experienced veteran, sure.
Yeah, but whenever I first met them, I thought Colin Graves was the leader because he's also up there in age and has experience as well. But like AJ Shadows, or not AJ Shadows, Austin James, I got the mix.
I'm sure he'd appreciate that, though. I'm sure he'd appreciate that.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna get on me about that one. But
hey, don't feel too bad. There's shows I basically like forget names and butcher championships. So listen, don't feel too bad, because I tell people at this point I watch between 50 and 60 matches a week. I speak with guys all over the world. So sometimes it's people are like, "Wow, how do you just keep it all?" And well, I have a little bit of experience in acting, and I had to read lines. I took drama for 3 years. I work in politics, so I have to remember these things, but it's hard. So trust me, I'm sure he'll appreciate that, though. So don't feel too bad.
I mean, you can't obviously leave out Austin James, because
Absolutely,
he is a dog. I will tell you that.
He's got gold too in other companies also currently. So this is a guy that's done a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. But he's a great competitor. Colin Graves is as well. We're all great competitors. And that's why I think we're all kind of on the same level as far as, in ring ability and part of a faction.
Well, I also think, and tell me your thoughts on this, I think that you bring something unique to the table there. And I think what certainly makes you guys worthy competitors to Divinity is that you all bring something unique to the table. You're all, in a way, like 4 different people, 4 different ring abilities, 4 different personalities, if that makes sense. What's your thoughts on that?
I could agree with that. But I will say this: it is not an honor to face them. Divinity is Divinity's honor to face #Ego. Yeah.
Ooh, boy, you're bringing it tonight.
Because you got to think, though, everybody in Ego except for me has all the gold, and we're basically the team to beat in DBW, honestly. I mean, excluding myself, even if I was in #Ego or not, they were the faction to beat, because they were currently the longest reigning tag team champions of DBW. They lost the championships, but in the snap of a finger, they regained them.
And what Havoc has done, I think, is World Extreme Champion. I mean, he has beat a who's who of people. I mean, the Scorpion Assassin, former World Champion. Cyrus, our guest last night, former World Champion. I mean, Azriel, a guy you saw in the Gauntlet match. I mean, he's beating guys that are either some of the top big men in this sport or have been world champions. I mean, so you got to give him a lot of credit in what he's done to the table and just representing Ego. And I kind of think that maybe that's why you guys talked a lot about what this would mean for Ego if you're able to bring it home and wrest that world championship away from Mr. Judgment?
Well, first of all, I'd like to talk about Roland Havoc for a little bit, because that guy is the dog. He is the dog.
I've had him actually on. The first time I had him on, I was introduced here by our coach on Sportswire, Chris Craven, who goes way back with Ego. And basically, Mr. Havoc was, I guess, in his backyard, and he was just drinking beers as if they were almost like he was just drinking water bottles. He was just dousing them. I mean, you gotta love a guy in a way that could basically take a beer and just jug it in 15 seconds and just keep drinking as if nothing ever happened. So automatically the guy is almost straight out of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really relate.
I know you can't do that though. Yeah, you can't really be drinking beer right now. You can drink maybe soda, maybe not even soda, but the beers I would certainly lay off if you can.
But I mean, I don't know if you did, but I don't know if anybody else saw at Double Cross, but I mean, I kind of had to. He poured me up, he poured me up.
I know, it was weird.
And I mean, I didn't have anything, but I mean, I'm not gonna say no. So I mean, what are you gonna do? I had to celebrate.
Yeah, it's Mr. Havoc. You're gonna look Mr. Havoc in the eye and say no? I mean, you see him. I mean, I've had him on here twice and he looks big. I mean, he just basically you're gonna tell him no? I mean, so I can certainly see why all of that there. So I mean, I want to ask you this question because you've been a world champion before, and I'm curious. Have you reflected on those times that you've been the champion in order, in a way, maybe to kind of mentally prepare you for this match and maybe reach down a little bit more and to wrest back that championship away from Mr. Judgment? Tell me your thoughts on that.
I have actually looked back a little bit on my past reign as world champion. twice.
And what did that mean to you to be the DBW World Champion?
Well, the first time it was awesome, but
Mm-hmm.
the sad and unfortunate part about that is my dad had to use his power as the owner of DBW and, you know, grant his rematch right there and then. And I was only like, what, 12 years old?
I was gonna say there was
Um,
even a time I think you were basically like trying to jump him in the woods, and then basically like he still anyway attacked and beat you up. I mean, you were trying some different things on him, and it didn't always work much.
I did not know where he was at, so I mean, I had to go out looking for him. He
I was
went
kind
out
of
for
like
the,
waiting. Yeah, that was funny. I was like waiting for the punchline, waiting for the moment, and then he appeared, and then he just basically did what he usually does.
I mean, my dad went out for the milk, so I had to go out and find him. So, no, but the second title reign meant a lot more
Mhm.
because I was actually able to defend the title a couple times,
Sure.
and one of them including my dad. But whenever I lost that title, it it really hit me in that moment. But like looking back at it, it's like really sad because I know I had that title once, and I don't after I lost it, I didn't think I was going to be able to really get another opportunity because I know a lot of other young competitors are very hungry to get that type of opportunity, and I hate to really take it away from them, especially now because we have
Oh, sure.
a lot more young and new talent.
I was gonna
Um,
say, and that's something I think that's really struck me a lot before I get to comments here, and I'll get to everybody in a second. But I was speaking about this with Brandon and obviously Cyrus last night. I mean, the roster is so deep in DBW now. There's really not. Before there was kind of like an established number of people that had been in the company for all, but now you've got a lot of new talent. It's almost like you need a scorecard to kind of figure out who's who at this, which is it's a good problem to have, by the way. But you've got a roster with over 30 wrestlers now. So there's a lot of people that they want your spot, Ace Christian.
oh yeah, definitely. So that's another thing too that I really have to think about is like before I thought I would never get an opportunity like that again. But now that there's more and more and more people coming, like now I might truly be able to say this might be my last big opportunity to regain that world championship. And if I fail, then I don't know what I'm going to do. But that's not the mindset. The mindset is going in there with my guys, with not only ego, but with the crowd having my back, whether they think I win or lose, they still my fans.
Oh,
So,
listen, no question. And I'm going to say something very similar to what I think you just said is actually going to be what my guest is going to say Thursday night, British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time here in New York. That is Bentley, the Vigilante of Pro Wrestling. And he just took the Bolton Town Wrestling undisputed title there from a guy, Jack Johnson. And this was his third crack at the title. And he came up short twice, and they were kind of in screwy fashions. But the fans were so loud and so electric. In fact, they were so loud he actually had kids come into the ring and celebrate with him. They were like so behind him, and he twice looked like he was going to be down and out, and he found a way, and he got every inch out of him to kick out, and he wound up finding a way to win the championship, and he's now going to be going for his second world title this weekend coming up in the Fountains Church against Rarebit for the GT Ministries title. It's going to be a very similar atmosphere, so that could be you. You've maybe been here a couple times, you haven't got it recently, but you know what? You're going to have that fan support, just maybe. That's going to will you to those championships. But let me get to some more comments here. I want to say hello to our friends over in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Come on over to watch TBW Rampage 150, certainly off the air. People can do that at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Much love and respect to you guys. Keep up the good work. And he wants everybody to have a good night. And also, Ace Christian, if you ever want to come to TBW, the door is always open. So, I mean, obviously, Tennessee, and maybe that's a place when you win the DBW title, maybe you could show up in. That's something, obviously, you'll have to consider. I mean, I guess.
I will have to consider that because I've only ever really wrestled in a couple states, and Tennessee not being one of them, so I could check that off my list.
And if you being the world champion, that would certainly be a dream for a lot of people, and especially with DBW's massive following and TBW's massive following. And Speaking of people here, we have been warned because the man we've been speaking about quite a bit right now, Mr. Judgment, our reigning, defending DBW champion of the world, who, oh, by the way, is not human, he's got a couple of comments towards you, sir, and I like to play those comments for the audience. This filthy mortal. What chance do you really think you have? I have destroyed every mortal that has stood in my path to my purpose. I will cleanse this world of all sin, and you, Ace, have committed the cardinal sin of pride. It'll be your downfall, filth. Your reactions to that, sir?
It's just silly talk. He's a funny guy with the funny jokes because he has all this Bible verses and stuff like that, all that funny stuff. But like I personally, like, I'm trying to be more of a believer in God, and like, seeing the way that my dad acts like that is just, it's weird. It's really weird, honestly. Like why would you play off someone that you're really not? Like that,
Why do you say that, though? That's some strong words there. I mean, he's Mr. Judgment. I mean, why do you say that there?
It's just, he doesn't really talk about all that stuff at the house whenever,
What do you mean by that? I mean, that's you're kind of breaking the fourth wall here a little bit. I mean, there, Mr. Christian. I mean, he's Mr. Judgment. He's the man that obviously is the final boss. He's not human. He's the prophet of purgatory. I mean, are you sure that you want to say those things? Because I mean, I'm sure Mr. Judgment would vehemently disagree with you on that, and I certainly wouldn't question how he goes about his life in at home or elsewhere. I'm certainly not going to challenge that man with his size, shape, and look on what he says and what he doesn't say.
Well, he ain't going to do nothing to me until World War. I know that much. But, like,
he's called you his illegitimate son, by the way. He said basically you've been a failure. He said this time and time again that you've basically failed him. I mean, do you feel like you failed Mr. Judgment? Do you feel like you failed him in the family name, obviously? I mean, what do you say to all that?
I mean, if he wants to say that about me, because me personally, I'm not letting that slide. But like I said, like I said before, I don't really like to do all this talking, but now that I realize that he's calling me this, he's calling me that, he's calling me a failure, does he really look in the mirror? Because he really should, because, if anything, he's the failure. Because, yeah, he's done this, he's done that, but I'm almost already more successful than he is in DBW. Some people might say that he's better, and I personally look at this father-son thing kind of like Cody Rhodes and Dusty Rhodes. Kind of like how Cody Rhodes has to try and fill the shoes of Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, I could see a little bit of that. I mean, Dusty Rhodes obviously is one of the greatest of all time. I wouldn't quite say he's Mount Rushmore. Cody Rhodes obviously right now has the potential to be on Mount Rushmore. I mean, Mr. Judgment, obviously certainly in this sport right now is at the top of his game. I mean, I guess maybe that's a fair comparison. I mean, he's still in his prime. You're not even scratched the surface. So, I mean, it's an interesting take. I mean, I couldn't think of any father-son combo that really has been similar in anything else. I mean, in baseball, once upon a time, there was Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. They actually homered back-to-back in the same game. Maybe that comes to mind. I mean, LeBron James and Bronny James. But really in wrestling, there really hasn't been a father-son combo that have been kind of active at the same time, with the exception, maybe this is where I would compare you guys a little bit to, in a different way, Rey and Dom Mysterio. I have to throw Rey and Dom Mysterio in there. If you have to say maybe that's where you guys could be compared a little bit.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that, because Rey Mysterio, in my case, my dad,
Ray's
as
the U.S. champion. Dom's the North American champion. NXT, you're the #1 contender to the DBW title. He's the DBW champion. So yeah, I mean, you have tough shoes to fill, no question. But you've shown you can compete. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I personally don't think I'm a failure to him. If anything,
You don't.
I'm already the successor to him. But
But if he puts you under the ground though on the 23rd of September, you wouldn't be succeeding him though.
At that moment, I wouldn't. But the thing with that is that's not going to happen. Like
It's not.
It's not going to happen. Like I'm telling you, and anybody that's watching.
We got a lot of people watching right now, but I have a lot more comments here right now. So you're in luck right now.
Well, that's good because I'm talking to you and everybody else that's watching. I will not let you or anybody else down.
Okay, well, you know what?
Falling under the power and judgment of Mr. Judgment. Because
well, you know what? This is interesting. I tell you what, you were really showing some fire tonight. You're certainly showing people why you are the Blaze. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm the man behind Sportswire Radio, your voice of all wrestling. And we are here right now with the #1 contender to that DBW Championship of the World. He is the Blaze, Ace Christian. And you can support DBW again, please, on Facebook, Dominating Backyard Wrestling. YouTube, Dominating Breakout Wrestling, over 3,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. And this is where you can watch World War, October the 14th, September the 23rd, next week. If you want to go out and get a ticket, you want to go and watch the show, you still have an opportunity. You have live music, you have sponsors, you just have a lot of things that I really think is going to make this the premier wrestling show of the year. You are really going to want to watch this. And you're also going to want to follow Ace Christian on Instagram at Ace_Christian1. That is Ace_Christian #1. And also Sportswire Radio. If you want to follow us, again, we're on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, Twitter at Thomas Price 2017, Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, and the ticker there below, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And I'll have more coverage coming up tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. British Standard Time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Nomad Dalton Garrett and Champagne Charlie. And we're going to get a little bit classier here on Sportswire Radio because the guys haven't been back in a while, and they're going to talk about what they're up to, especially in places like Cutlery Championship Wrestling and more. So very excited to be with the guys. And also be back here Thursday, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. What a real treat this is going to be. We are going to be here with the Bolton Town undisputed champion of the world, the vigilante of pro wrestling, Bentley, who I think is now going to be here for his 10th appearance on Sportswire Radio. He is basically here with us every few months before the GT Ministry shows, and this could be the biggest show yet of his career. But right now, up before the biggest match of his career, I would say, coming up, it is the Blaze Ace Christian, and we have got a ton of comments here. Let me get to them because I wanted to get those intros out of the way. Mr. Judgment says God can't save you. Do you believe in God, Ace Christian?
Of course I do. Hence the name Ace Christian.
I had to still ask. I am a reverend, but I still wanted to ask.
Yeah, I got you. But like obviously my real name is not Ace Christian, but the reason why I changed the name to Ace Christian is because the Ace part, I like to think of Ace as like another word of the best. Because obviously Ace of Spades, stuff like that.
Sure.
Stuff like that. And, I like to say that no one is doing what I'm doing at the age that I'm doing it at. Because, I'm just like, you talk about how Mr. Judgment is on his own level. I think I'm on my own level.
Yeah, I will say this much. What I've seen you in the ring from when you started to where you are now, your move set, what you're doing, the way you move in the ring, I will definitely say that you have improved a lot in a short amount of time, and you are definitely a guy that, again, you remind me of 2-Bit so much. 2-Bit, look him up on YouTube, and just the way you move in the ring, the way you conduct yourself. He was at a young age. He started his career training out there in the UK in Barrow, I think at like 13. And he's got to be now maybe 23, and he basically was on WWE TV. I mean, you're basically, to me, going in that direction. You remind me so much of 2-Bit.
Well, I appreciate that. But I definitely plan on being much more successful than my dad and whoever Two Bed is. No offense to him, but
Sure.
I plan on making my own path, and I'm on my own level, and that will be shown at World War whenever I beat Mr. Judgment.
Well, we're going to certainly find out, and I'm very excited. But let me get to some comments, especially from another company that we've spoken about here quite a bit in the past, whether it's with the likes of Chase Wakefield, obviously Brandon Castelli, a man you saw in the ring recently not too long ago, obviously Mr. Judgment. That is our friends over at VTW Wrestling. And Ace Christian is the future of VTW. So what do you want to say about VTW? Obviously, you wrestle there as well. We've seen you in there with some great matches, and you've been a huge part of that company, another great company out there. And what does that mean to you? And what does it also mean to you to work for VTW?
So about VTW, I have only been there a couple times. But I remember the first time I was invited there, I was there for their Best in the Yard show. Best in the Yard 4, I think. But I wrestled on their pre-show match. And I'm not even gonna lie, I was kind of, getting to myself about that because I was on the pre-show. Like
Sure.
the main show is the big deal, you know what I mean? But whenever I had my match with at that time K9, now known as KO Mori, me and him put on a clinic. And, I'm glad I was able to be in the ring with him again, and I would like to face him again now that I'm much older and much more experienced, because back then I was only 14 years old, 12, 13.
I wasn't going to ask, but I kind of had an idea.
Around that age. But some people in the back from ETW even say that was the match of the night. So, I mean, after that show, no matter where you're at in the card, you just put on a banger and you make people think about that. But now in VTW, I am soaring to the skies right now. I did just come off a loss against D-Lock for the world title, for their world title. But, the fact that I even got an opportunity at that title means something, because the company is now rebranded basically, and it's basically coming out of its old shell, and it's a lot better than what it was before.
Well,
and
I will say this about VTW before you continue. Jack Delta told me months ago that VTW was he thought it was pound for pound, one of the best companies all around in wrestling, not just underground, YouTube, backyard. That's how high of praise that Jack Delta gave VTW. So the fact that you're a part of VTW, I think shows A, in your ability, but also B, in how good this company is. So to me, when I heard that from Jack Delta, and I consider Jack Delta a friend, I mean, that just definitely gives me all the respect in the world for VTW.
Oh yeah, definitely. VTW is definitely one of the better YouTube promotions around and in the world, basically. But yeah, like the fact that I even got an opportunity at that world title meant something to me, because not many people have gotten that opportunity yet. So I was glad I was able to be the first one. But just because I lost doesn't mean I won't be back. I just gotta go back to the drawing board, rethink some things before I start making my way back up to the top.
Well, fair enough. We're going to definitely be watching VTW, and you can watch them again on YouTube. Also, support them on Facebook, Instagram. And it's a company that we've covered a little bit here and there, and I think we're supposed to have some more coverage of that in the future. So stay tuned for more details. Speaking of more people, the Blaze is going to dethrone and incinerate the false prophet. Obviously, we know Van Hansen very well, and it seems like you've got some support here tonight for that.
Of course I do. Like, why wouldn't I have support? Like I said, I know people are going to root for him just because of his size, just because of his in-ring ability.
Well, people like the big man. People like he's a larger-than-life guy. You look at him in the ring, he's got a certain mannerism. He's got a certain look. He's got the tattoos. He's got the size. I mean, he's also the big man on the block. People always like to appeal to the big man on campus.
But that's where like the kicker comes in, because you can't really in wrestling you can't really judge a book by its cover, because like you were talking about earlier, Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. You know, Rey Mysterio is obviously one of the more smaller wrestlers in the world, but you know he still became one of the greatest of all time. And
Sure.
just because he's bigger than me doesn't mean jack. Okay, because yeah, he was my teacher for wrestling, because he taught me the basics and all that funny stuff. But it's literally a teacher versus student game, and some could say David versus Goliath. However, however, you know, I don't think what other people say really affects how my mindset is going into this match, because I know my dad better than anybody else. So that's why I block out no matter if they're behind me or not. I don't care. I do care about if they praise me, but I don't care if they praise him. But like either way, it's not going to change the outcome of the match, and that being me me raising my hand with the world
Well,
title.
I mean, we're going to find out. I'll tell you that much. I mean, certainly we're all really, really excited about this show. And I really love DBW. And I really have taken a liking to this company just as much as I like VTW and their stuff. And Van Hansen wants to say his real name is Blaze Judgment. Well, yeah, you might be Blaze Judgment. You certainly, might be able to do that for sure. We'll have to find out. But I have a good question here before I get to some more comments. And I think this is a fair statement. Strong words, though, by Mr. Christian, but can he back it up with one of the greatest in DBW?
That was kind of like the same question Cyrus had for me. Can I live up
Yeah,
to the hype? I mean, uh, I get that my dad's one of the greatest DBW wrestlers of all time.
yeah,
But,
absolutely, no question.
but don't you think I am too, though? Like, yeah, I get I'm his son, and that shouldn't really have anything to do with that. But think about what I've done in my career.
Well,
I've
so
almost completed a Grand Slam championship
well,
run.
let me ask you a follow up though. You said something interesting there, and I want to go to that for a second before I get to comments. If you win next week, right? We talk about the greatest, right? Cyrus talked about who's the best, and all those different things, right? So let's say if you win next week and you take that DBW title away from Mr. Judgment, do you consider yourself the greatest all time in DBW history if you win next week and reclaim that DBW world title for a third time?
I like to think that I'm the greatest in DBW of all time, no matter if it's my dad in the picture or whoever else in DBW that's in the picture. I like to think that I'm the greatest, but I think winning this match, and it's not if, it's when I beat Mr. Judgment. Gotta get that correction started up. But when I beat Mr. Judgment, I think that will prove that heavily. Heavily.
Okay, interesting statement, interesting take. While you have your drink, I'm going to get to some more comments. Glad to have been able to defend the title against the future of wrestling and put on a clinic. Hopefully, we'll run it back again. Champion versus champion. Well, listen, stay tuned. Anything is possible. I want to say hello to Mr. D'Lo Smith, who I think I owe an appearance still on Sportswire, so I have to reschedule that, and I apologize. I haven't. I've honestly we've had so many shows at this week on Sportswire that I actually needed a day or two of just basically just to not do this because my voice was not too good. But I am gonna obviously reschedule that. So I apologize and thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody from VTW, by the way. I love VTW, and I cannot thank them enough for their support. Ace is a level above many others. Well, obviously Ace, right? Ace is kind of the ace of spades. Ace is the big one, so I give him that much. But I want to get to a comment from I think an individual that is certainly related or maybe knows an individual that you might be considering a comrade now of in a group called Ego, #Ego that you refer to. And this individual says, you want to talk size and how big Mr. Judgment is? Ace, you have a big man that is rolling, that has your back. And then with a beer emoji there. You know anything about this individual? You have a thought or two on this comment here, young man?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, Roland, of course, my guys have my back, of course.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't intend on having them interfere too much. I mean, of course, if they see something's going on, they're gonna come in. They're gonna have my back, of course. But like I said before, they had their own business to take care of that show with Roland Havoc defending his World Team Championship against Brandon Castelli and hashtag Ego Austin James and Colin Graves defending tag team championships against Divinities, Caden Phoenix, and Sammy Nothing. So I mean the plan is to have all of us walking out with gold, and the plan is for after the show we're gonna turn up. You know what I mean? Like I mean I can't legally drink alcohol, but I mean if something happens, it's not.
You could have a non-alcoholic beer. I mean, you could have a non-alcoholic beer.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I made sure to cover for you there. But, I want to ask you, though, something else on the world title. And then I want to obviously talk about the show itself while we have a little bit more time with you. And I appreciate the opportunity you've given us here in Sportswire. I know you're a very, very busy man inside and outside the ring. But, I had asked Cyrus this question, and I don't know if you even thought about it. But obviously, if you win, you're going to say win, which I get that. But I think in a lot of ways, the locker room, believe it or not, might be rooting for you more than you think. And here's why. Because obviously we look at Mr. Judgment, right? We look at his size. We look at his strength. If you don't win and you fail next weekend, who's really on the radar that's going to take the title from him? But if you win, my friend, you win the championship next weekend, you've got a whole locker room that's going to say, you know what? Ace Christian, the Blaze, he got lucky when it came to Mr. Judgment. I could beat him. I could certainly measure up with him. Sure, he might be great in the ring. He might be an ace. But I'm going to certainly like my chances more so against him than Mr. Judgment. I mean, so what do you say to something like that? Because I think deep down, and again, I asked Cyrus this question, and he kind of demurred because he's kind of got his own situation he's going to address next week at World War, and I'll save that for next month when he comes back on the air, by the way. But you buy into that? You believe in that at all? That secretly deep down, the locker room is rooting for you because they see you as an easy target to take that title away from?
Well, if they think I'm an easy target, that is a big mistake on them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if they think that way, I feel like they're forgetting the fact that I've already beaten Mr. Judgment twice. And if you want to target my back like that, like how my dad did, how Brandon Castelli did, how Matt Moore did, unfortunately I wasn't able to put down Matt Moore, but I was able to put down Brandon Castelli, and I will be able to put down Mr. Judgment. If you think twice about trying to target me behind my back's already covered because I got hashtag ego. Yeah. But even if you go through that big wall, you're gonna suffer the consequences because you're gonna catch my attention and get that title shot. However, you're not gonna run circles around me. I'm running circles around you. Yeah.
Interesting perspective there. And before I get to more comments and a few more things, I want to obviously mention something that we've been working on here on Sportswire with a new sponsor on the way called Dually.com. And Dually.com is a website that you'll be seeing when it comes to voting on certain things. They do stuff currently with NASCAR. They do some other things in other sports. They're out of Nevada, and the person that actually designed the website's a local guy here in the area. We're actually going to be working on some different things in the future there when it comes to streaming, maybe some voting content in the world of wrestling. So stay tuned for more details on that. And obviously, If you go to Duelly.com, DUELLY.com, you'll be able to obviously get a sense of what the website has to offer. There'll also be some stuff for voting. You'll get some custom designed t-shirt stuff, also sponsors, different things like that. So stay tuned for more details on that. And I want to thank, obviously, Ed Pizzo, also my friend Maria, for obviously getting us this opportunity to work with them, we believe, very soon. So let me get to know more comments here while I have a little bit more time with you. Mr. Judgment isn't a false prophet. Ace Christian, you're going to need more than God to dethrone such a powerful prophet that Mr. Judgment is. Good luck. The plan, scrap that plan. Abandon all hope when judgment arrives. Your reactions.
As I said before, I don't care what other people have to say, especially if it's trying to put me down. But it does get to me sometimes. The doubt does get to me sometimes. But once I step in that arena, as soon as I step in that arena, my line's locked in. I'm in the right mindset with my guys. Hashtag ego. They're going to do their business. I'm going to do mine. And afterwards, we going to party.
Well, we'll have to find out where you may party. Will it be Waffle House? Will it be somewhere where I'm sure Mr. Havoc is having a few cold ones? Stay tuned for those details. But this comment pretty much goes to what I tend to think and what I spoke about with Mr. Cyrus yesterday, sir, and that you do have ego as a backup, but not forget you have others that have your back if anything goes south quickly, which is why I think secretly the locker room probably wants you to take that title away from Mr. Judgment because, again, you're certainly more of an easier target than Judgment. The facts are the facts. Yes, you're the Blaze. Yes, your ring set speaks for itself. Yes, you haven't scratched the surface. But again, the tail of the tape would say if Mr. Judgment, if he beats you coming up next weekend, I don't see anybody on the horizon taking the title from him. We'll have to see. Obviously, you're going to disagree. But, I do want to ask you in the amount of time that I have left with you, and we're going to have the biggest show to date in the company's history. Obviously, there's a lot here at stake. You've obviously seen this company from day one. I mean, on a personal level, seeing how this company has evolved from where it started to where it is now is what I have said time and time again here on and off the air, where this company will be in the future. This is not where it's going to peak. It's only going to get even bigger and better from here. What does it mean to you right now to be at this point in the company and kind of seeing where this company has evolved from? What does that mean to you personally?
Well, me personally, not as a wrestler speaking.
Yep. Say it any way you want.
It's a really big deal for sure. Seeing how wrestling obviously in the company while it's growing and ever since square one has been awesome, whether it's up or downs or in between. It's still going up. Like, we're doing so much better than obviously when we first started, and we only plan on going up. Like, it's a big deal because right now is the biggest era. Like, it's the best era for us right now currently, and to be a part of this era is a big deal, and it's an honor that I am son of an owner, vice president of the company, but I mean, I already said it. Like, it's really a big deal. But it's only gonna go up from here.
You know what? And this is what I am saying. And I know you've lived it. You've lived it in a different way. I know we're kind of not speaking so much as the Blaze here in a second, but I mean, I think about just watching some of the stuff from where you guys were years ago to where you guys are now, and I think where you guys will be in a year and 2 years from now is really special. And it's really, very few companies can say to what you guys have done. And, I have to wonder, did you ever think, or was there ever, doubts or anything that came to your mind? I mean, did you think we'd be here at this point? I mean, I'm just curious on that.
I personally did not think we were going to get to this point. I personally thought we were going to stay outdoors forever and ever. But we obviously changed that. It's a financially taxing way of doing this, but
Sure. I do work with XCW, and they do the same thing. They go half outdoor, half indoor. They go in like almost like a high school gym, and they'll record hours and hours worth of content. Their shows are a little longer than yours, and they'll tape weeks at a time. So I can imagine that these shows, they are what they are in terms of just those different financial obligations, but it's still obviously something you guys did, switching from outdoor to indoor, that I think has obviously made you guys a place that I think people look at no more and say, that's not a backyard company anymore. To me, I consider you guys, like I continue to say, right there, just about right there to being an indie company. You're just about there.
Yeah, and that's crazy to think about, because for most of the time of this company's existence, we've been doing it outside and less indoors, but we plan on changing that, being indoors more and trying to finalize some things to being officially an independent company, which would be really, really, really cool to see that, because obviously I've lived through it throughout my career, and watching it grow up. It may not be my baby, but it's my brother. It's my brother, literally.
Well, it's got to mean a lot more to you than somebody else, because again, this is something that I guess in a way you were born into. I mean, think about it. I mean, you are kind of like the McMahons. You are kind of like the Rhodes in a certain way. The Ortons we could throw in there, the Mysterios, the Jarretts. I think the Jarretts would be probably the best really kind of analogy, because the Jarretts kind of had a small time company, and then obviously the Jarretts kind of grew in different ways. But I mean, you obviously have seen this in a way, and you've kind of seen wrestling from a different lens than even some of the veterans in the locker room. That's kind of why I was so curious what you thought, because obviously, again, look at to where we were and to where we are at the moment. And again, where I think you guys will be. And I speak to some of the guys in the locker room, and, there's a lot of excitement in the company. There's a lot of buzz in the company. There's a lot of just, like, does that fire you up? Does that give you extra motivation coming into next weekend? Because this is just going to be an electric atmosphere. You're going to have a lot more people there. You've got this big roster. We've got sponsors. We've got music. I mean, this is really almost kind of like, it's your WrestleMania, but it's almost like your WrestleMania 1 almost, because this is like the start of something. I mean, does this give you like extra incentives?
Yeah, this is really the start of a true new era. I mean, with the rebranding name of our WrestleMania event from Judgment Day to World War, that's a big deal. Being the first main event of World War is a big deal. Main eventing the big show is a big deal. Just overall, it's just a big, I'm very humbled to be in this position. And, winning, like I said before, winning this gauntlet, it doesn't look like much, but trust me, when you win, the next person that wins this championship will truly know the personal take that this title gives to you once you win, and once it finally soaks in, it gives you more motivation to keep fighting and keep fighting to be at the top.
No, listen, let me tell you something. To win anything, it doesn't matter what it is not easy. So I don't care what company it is, what level, what country, what state, whatever you want to call it, you won something and you deserve all the credit in the world. But I have a ton more comments here because people want to talk to you. I know you obviously are a busy man, so I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can for the remainder of the show.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
I know you're a busy man. I know you're a very, very busy man here, but let me get to some more comments here. This individual says, Ace Christian, I'll wait for my opponent. If you win the world title, stay tuned. But guess what? He reveals himself as the It Factor Cyrus, Ace Christian hashtag stay tuned. What's your reactions on that? Obviously, Cyrus is a very interesting man, talked about his appreciation for Mr. Judgment, his mutual respect, and there's no other man other than yourself that probably knows Mr. Judgment as well, and he seems to, I guess, in his mind, have it where Mr. Judgment and him seem like they're good, but I don't think Mr. Judgment will feel the same way. But what is your reactions overall to what Cyrus said last night? What is he saying now? What's your reactions to all of that, sir?
Well, Cyrus is his own man, so I can't really say too much about him, but with what he's been doing recently is kind of, unexpected because he was kind of a team player for DBW until he walked out on that Thunder Punch episode where him and Graves and the returning Damian Fatal, they returned to take on Divinity, and he just plain out walked out. So there's a lot of question marks there. Still, I think something to be revealed, I think. But, like I said, I can't really speak too much about it as far as him being next in line and all that stuff. Like I said before, I personally hated to not necessarily hate, but to know the fact that I took that opportunity away from someone else that honestly probably deserves it more than me. I'm not going to let this opportunity slip away. I'm going to make it worth it, and I'm obviously going to win it. And I think, Cyrus, he's doing something that's kind of unexpected, and he's doing something that's kind of different.
Sure.
But, I've gone through like 2 other guys, well, technically 4, but 2 other guys to get this opportunity. And I don't think walking out during a match is going to get that type of opportunity. So when I win that world title, I will make sure that you are not next in line. I will make sure it is someone else that is more deserving and that is, that deserves that type of spotlight.
Okay, interesting comments here. I want to say hello to some more people. I want to say hello to somebody from California, Skulls the Soul Hunter, who, by the way, has his own action figure. He is out there, does some security work, some other work on the side for companies like the Valley Wrestling Connection, the Wrestling War Zone. My very dear friend, Mr. Darrow Johnson, one of my biggest supporters out there, gave me the opportunity to continue to speak with the legendary Vito Fratelli, the man that wrestled not once but twice Alexander Hammerstone for the MLW World title when he was the champion. So I want to thank, obviously, Darrow. Also, Skulls says, don't be drinking wine out of that. I don't think he's drinking wine or anything with that, but, obviously, I'll let Mr. Christian answer to some of that here. I also want to say hello to one of the co-hosts from the Protect Life show. He is also the first real wrestler. He is Parsley's himself. He is on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Justin Parsley from XCW, who defeated the owner of XCW Fletch at SummerMania 18, their biggest show in company's history, says, good for you guys going inside venues. It helps every product improve that takes those next steps. Do you feel like as a company you're learning things also in terms of, let's say, the production and different things like that by going from outdoor to indoor? Just want to talk about that very quickly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the sound quality is much more better. The lighting is obviously better because it's not as natural, and natural lighting isn't that good with cameras. And also with outside and the sound with music and theme songs and stuff like that. Being outside kind of hinders that because you got so much space that music's going to, but when it's indoors you can get
those
that
acoustics.
you can get that arena feel. Like
exactly.
There's not a whole lot of people. There's not thousands of people sitting out there, but with the music coming out and the music reflecting back to you, it feels awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the acoustics, I feel like the effects, I feel like looking at the arena itself, and whether you're in a small gym, whether you're in a VFW hall, whatever it is, I still think it's light years better than being in a yard. No disrespect to anybody in a yard, but I just feel like you guys are like professionals now. It's professionalism. I just feel like all that stuff that I see that almost the people there, the commenter, I don't want to say who, I don't want to see the ring introductions, but obviously, all that stuff to seeing fans and that setup, just to me, it feels better. It feels to me like I'm watching a professional company with a massive following that it deserves here. I have more comments here from Mr. Cyrus himself. He says, deserves the spotlight. Ha. I made the spotlight for this up and coming generation. Unfortunately, you're simply inside your mind, boxing with yourself on what's real and what isn't. Reality will set in soon. Get it done. Your response.
Like I said, he is an interesting character. He is a interesting human being.
Yes, I found out firsthand. He's, by the way, coming back after the show on the 14th. He is already requested to be booked. He is already wants to show why greatness is personified, and he's coming on here right after the show is released on YouTube because he says he has a whole lot to address, Cyrus. So he's already demanded the floor.
Well, that's good for him, and it's a big honor for him to be on this show again.
He demanded it too.
I mean, see, now me personally, if I had my own show, I'm not letting people tell me what to do and when I want to do stuff. But
well, he said so. I mean, okay, what am I going to tell him? No, I mean, he said he wants to come on.
I mean, I don't know, but like I said, though, he is an interesting character, and I'm not. He can say it all he wants, and like I said before, it doesn't really matter. But no one is gonna change my mindset. And if he thinks if he thinks I'm boxing with my mind, then that's what he thinks. But he doesn't live inside my head. He doesn't know what I do. He doesn't know how I think. He doesn't know how I do me.
I can see that. No, I could totally see that here. And I want to say hello, actually, before we get into a few other questions and closing. I figure about another 20 or so minutes here with, obviously, of course, the Blaze, Ace Christian, the number one contender to our DBW championship. And again, one more time, if you want to watch the show itself, if you're like me in New York, October the 14th, YouTube, Dominating Breakout Wrestling. I want to say hello to our friends over at Dually.com because I believe I have a few of those individuals who have created that website here on Sportswire actually viewing our stream. So I want to thank them. I want to thank the team there, Ed, Jerry, Maria, for coming in and checking in with us. And definitely we'll have more details on my show tomorrow with the first class and where you get some more details and going over to Dually.com. But in the meantime here, I got a ton of more people that actually want to say things to you. Skulls says Cyrus reminds him of Con Air. Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit of the Con Air movie, but I have to go back and watch Con Air. It's been a while since I've watched Con Air. And this individual says Cyrus blows nothing but hot air, which I haven't really used a hot hair dryer in a while because I wet my hair these days. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. And speaking of individuals that are here, and speaking of individuals who have also requested already to come back to Sportswire Radio, he is coming back after the 23rd of September. That is, of course, the Mauler, Brandon Castelli. He is here live. He has a lot to say because you and him were the personal feud, I would say, of the summer in DBW. Even though I was robbed of the Grail, I wish you luck in your match. You'll need it. The Mauler certainly had a video that has been the talk of the DBW and wrestling world that was posted not too long ago. Your reactions to the Mauler, Brandon Castelli.
He did something that I can't respect, and that is cheap shot me. After I had my match with Matthew Moore, he cheap shot me to grab my attention. I cannot respect that, but I can respect the fact that he respects me, even though me and him had such a personal vendetta for each other, and we went through war to get to World War. But like I said, I respect him for showing me respect. Like, if you show me respect, I'll show you respect. Like, that's how I roll. And he's meeting that expectation. So I appreciate the words. But I cannot say the same for you because you're going to be in the ring with Roland Havoc, maybe. And I don't even know what the stipulation is. But it don't even matter because I am sorry to say this, Brandon, but you are going in the ground.
Ooh, well, you know what? After what I saw from the Mauler, though, a few weeks ago here on this show and his video, something tells me that I think the Mauler is going to have a lot on his mind. He's going to be looking for retribution, and this could very well be Mr. Havoc's toughest test yet. So stay tuned. And by the way, we're going to get reactions from the Mauler right after the show itself. So the Mauler is going to be here, I believe, the week after the show. So we're going to stay tuned for more details on all of that. And I also want to say here, obviously, Mr. DVG is here. He says hello. You're getting a lot of people tuning in. So at this point, we'll let it keep on coming here. And Skull says, at least it's not a belt to the head while on Sportswire. Because as you may know, Skulls, he was actually here live and he got attacked on the air. He actually was the first person ever in Sportswire history. Yeah, we were doing a show and basically Skulls had showed up in a company called WCE and their champion Craven Rage, certainly no Mr. Judgment, actually came from behind and attacked Skulls and he didn't even see it coming. So certainly at least you don't have that. But the Mauler would like to say this though. In the end, I'll have the last laugh.
I can respect that.
You do.
Like I said, I give him respect for showing me respect, but this is a business, and the business at hand is Roland Havoc going to retain that World Team Championship because I don't know about Roland personally, or I don't know about like if he told you why he has been doing what he's been doing to Brand Caselli, but he basically did the same thing he did to me to Roland Havoc.
Yes.
Roland Havoc was in that number one contender Rumble match.
Yep.
And Roland Havoc was just doing the same. He was about to win that thing. He was in the Final Four. But then a surprise entrant in Knicks low blowed Roland Havoc, and they threw him out like a piece of trash while he was still the World Stream Champion. And I think, like, if that was me, I would take that as a spit in the face because you do not just come up and cheap shot me and just think you're not gonna get.
So you don't believe that in any way or any means necessary to win. You don't believe in that then?
I do believe in that. However, there is a certain line to be met, basically. And, doing that kind of went above the line.
Okay, well, you know what? That's a fair take. I can respect that. I understand where you're coming from. I may understand where the Mauler and Knicks are coming from. I'm certainly sure, though, that the Mauler will have reactions here in a couple of weeks on what he does on the 23rd of September. And I'm sure a lot of people will be very curious on what the Mauler has to say. Something tells me, though, after what I saw recently from the Mauler, I would certainly not want to bet against him. But hey, listen, stay tuned. Havoc is Havoc, and it'll be a match I think a lot of people will really enjoy. Ace, at the end of the day, if you don't get the job done, I'd say go soul searching, but your soul will be gone. Well, certainly that. And I want to say hello again to our people here again from Dooley.com and Mr. Ed Pizzo. I was speaking with Ed, and Ed is here live with us. Ed, I hope you like what you may see here on Sportswire. I hope that you'll see that we're a place that you can do business with, and certainly the content and all the wrestling stuff that we do. And I look forward to working with you and everything else. So if you're out there, go to Dooley.com for more information. And I guess dwell that, whatever it might be. But I look forward to obviously working with you. And maybe you want to have some of our wrestlers here on your page, and we can have this stream onto your website, Dooley.com. And thank you. And I hope that you haven't been scared too far away. And he says, you guys are awesome. I'm a huge fan. So I appreciate the kind words. So definitely, this is what we get here in wrestling, Ed. You kind of have some unique characters. We talk about people like the Prophet of Purgatory, Mr. Judgment, the Blaze, Ace Christian, the Mauler, Brandon Castelli. This is what you get. I know you come from the racing world, but here in wrestling, I think we've got some larger than life personas, and you're certainly going to want to, oh, by the way, look at great companies like DBW to work with, who, by the way, have over 3,000 plus subscribers. So if you're looking for an affiliate to partner with, a company that to do business with, that's their handles. Get in touch with them. I'm sure that they would love to work with you. So that would certainly be some things there to keep in mind. Check them out and said, oh, by the way, the Reverend Tom Bryce sent you. Let me get to a few more comments before we move on to closing thoughts. You just got to know when to play your cards and fold them. Yeah, well, that's pretty much what Cyrus said on the show yesterday, basically. It's like a poker game. Basically, you're going to be playing a game of poker with Mr. Judgment. We'll see if you got that ace. If you have your ace of spades, like you say, you will be the champion. I'll get you back on the air, and I'll say, you know what? You were right. You told us so. I shouldn't have doubted you. I was wrong to ask you about believing in miracles. You've got the number of Mr. Judgment, but if you don't, you may be in the ground literally. So it'll be a question of, do you have that lucky ace? But Moeller would like to say, if you don't believe in my methods, you won't be world champion. You were willing to use any means necessary to beat me, yet won't go all the way for the championship. Interesting words there from the Mauler. You have a quick reaction before I ask you a few more questions?
See, now me personally, I did not know Roland was going to come out and attack you like that, but it's just that personal vendetta between them two. But I still don't believe in cheap shotting people. I mean, but that's different because Brandon started it, and now Roland's going to finish it at World War.
Well, I don't know. Listen, I want to say this before I move on to you and ask a couple more questions. I spoke with Brandon off the air, and I hope that the Mauler is okay with me saying this. The Mauler right now is in a state, if you remember movies, horror movies, psycho movies, whether it's Cape Fear, whether it's Silence of the Lambs, I think the Mauler right now is going to do tenfold compared to what those guys did in those movies. Look them up if you haven't watched them. I promise you that the Mauler is going to be in a state of mind. As much as we love and respect Havoc, something tells me here that the Mauler is in a state of mind where he's going off the deep end. And when you go off the deep end, sometimes they say desperate times call for desperate measures. We'll have to see. I'm sure I'll get his reactions, and I'm sure that we'll get your compadres and Ego's reactions real soon as well. DB Dub, DB Dub, DB Dub, amen to that. And I want to say hello to management from DBW. World War will be our biggest show of all time. Amazing matches with all titles defended, and to top it off, the biggest main event of all time, father versus son. You know, what you think about it here, especially if you're Ed Pizzo and Dooley.com, right? Looking to start your company off the ground, affiliates, wrestling companies. Where will you ever have a main event? Father versus son. Ray and Dom wasn't main event. Ric Flair and David Flair wasn't main event. Cody and Dusty never faced off. Dustin and Dusty really never faced off in a main event. You're going to get something here which you probably will never see again. In a main event, father versus son for a world championship, in a main event where thousands of people are going to watch this on YouTube. You're getting hundreds of engagements. You're getting all these new people out there. You're going to have live music, sponsors, you name it. And this is why you need to go out and support DBW again on all their platforms. Very simple. Just go out and check it, like it, sub it, follow it, message it, do everything else in between with a bologna sandwich or two to spare. I'm telling you, you will not want to regret it. Also, thank me for your support. I appreciate that very much. The Blaze Ace Christian versus the final boss, Mr. Judgment, in front of the biggest crowd in DBW history. Listen, WrestleMania is going to have nothing on this. All Out's going to have nothing on this. AEW at the Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium is going to have nothing on this. I promise you, this is going to be an event you're going to remember for a very, very long time. Go out and support this company. Skulls wants to say, gotta go. Gotta cut a promo for my next match. So, you know what? I want to ask you then, before we get to closing thoughts, what are your final words to Mr. Judgment before next weekend at World War?
I mean, I basically already said it all on here already. But I mean, honestly, I don't got much else to say other than whatever happens from now until World War. So you'll probably catch me on Thunder Punch. So I mean, nothing else really much else to
You're going to
say.
do your talking in the ring. The talking is over.
Exactly.
Basically, the
Exactly.
time, this is what I assume here. The time for talking is over. We heard from Judgment. We heard from Costelli. We heard from Cyrus. We've now heard from you. Let's get this over with. Let's go to next weekend. Let's all watch it October the 14th, and then we'll see when the dust settles who's on top and who's going to be the future of DBW and just who maybe is going to be the greatest of all time. So I got all of that here. Let me ask you, though, before I ask you this last question, is this the biggest match of your career next weekend?
So some people like to say that, but I think personally, I would have to agree because this is my home company. This is where I've grown up at, ever since it first started. And I've done all my training basically through the matches. But this is the true, this is the pinnacle of matches in DBW history. And, being a part of this is this is going to be the greatest match in DBW history. Being a part of this match is going to mean so much to me. Win or lose or draw,
It's no DQ, but okay, fine. I'll give you that.
Oh, yeah. But
I know, listen, there's a lot of fans out there. You're getting comments left and right. But I get where you're coming from. I get it. I totally get where you're coming from. I get it. Listen.
But yeah, I definitely do think this is the biggest match of my career because this is also I'm facing my dad yet again. Biggest show of the year, period. Biggest match in DBW history, period.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask you one more question. But before I do that, I want to put this on the screen one more time, especially for you, Ed Pizzo, obviously looking for new companies, new people to support. Yeah, we got a duel going down. This is what you're going to get from DBW. This is a company, again, Ed, 3,300 plus subscribers on YouTube, thousands of views for their show. If you want to put your company, dually.com, and put your weight behind somebody that you can believe in, this is the company that you're going to want to do it. Go out there and message them on Facebook, YouTube, or the owner of the company. Oh, by the way, is the champion. Message him on Facebook, a.k.a. Brian Phillips. Just do it. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. This is a company. They got a big roster, over 30 people on the roster. I don't endorse people unless I believe in them. This is a company I believe in. So if that means anything to you, this is a company that I want to see on your website there. So he says dual that, and he agrees. So we'll obviously let him go message your father later on if he wants to. But I want to ask you one more question. I could ask you 1,000 more questions, but I'm going to ask you one more. What do you want to say to the people here tonight that are hearing you for the first time and are going to watch you, whether it's in the ring live or on October the 14th on YouTube?
To everybody that's watching, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for coming out, and obviously thank you, Tom, for having me on. But just thank you guys for supporting me, whether you are just now listening to me or have been a long-time fan. Thank you for supporting me throughout my journey. But it, like you said before, I haven't even scratched the surface yet, and I feel like this is about to be the start of something special for my career once I regain that world championship.
Well, we're going to find out. Certainly, you have a lot on the line. You are staring at a lot of possibilities that we'll certainly have to find out on. Obviously, this is the biggest show in the history of DBW. I'm excited about it. So should you. I promise you, this is not going to be a summer until DBW concludes with World War coming up here on September the 23rd. It'll air on YouTube on October the 14th. It has been a tremendous honor to have you. I want to now give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? And the Blaze Ace Christian, you have certainly proven why you are the Blaze. And we'll see almost like John Bon Jovi. Will you go out in a blaze of glory coming up next weekend against your father, Mr. Judgment, in the main event for the DBW title? I turn it over to you. The floor is yours. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, fire away.
Just follow all the stuff. You see it all right here. Follow my Instagram, ace_Christian1. Follow my TikTok, ace_Christian1. Follow my Facebook page, Ace Christian. That's it.
Simple, short, sweet, and to the point. We'll see, ladies and gentlemen, if the old adage rings true. A rising tide lifts all boats. The mindset of the Blaze Ace Christian very well could be that rising tide that lifts the boats of so many that believe in him. In DBW, coming up next weekend, we'll have to find out. Certainly when the dust settles, we'll have more coverage of it here on Sportswire Radio on all of our platforms, which you can pretty much find out very simple here below and above. And we'll have to find out the future. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity, my friend. Good luck. Congratulations on the success. Currently, we'll see if you add more to it and put your name as the greatest in DBW next weekend. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And I look forward to speaking with you when the dust settles.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Blaze. Ace Christian, the number one contender to the DBW World Heavyweight Championship. He'll be in the ring next weekend against his father, Mr. Judgment, in a no DQ match for the main event of the DBW World Championship, which will air on YouTube on October the 14th on all DBW pages, especially on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of Sportswire Radio, the owner of Sportswire Radio, also the number one global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling. I'll be back here tomorrow again, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time with the Nomad Dalton Garrett and Champagne Charlie, and Thursday, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time with the Vigilante of Pro Wrestling Bentley. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. Thank you, everybody here, for tuning in. Thank you to all the DBW fans. And one more time, support them on the links below. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. And thank you to Ace Christian and everybody from DBW once again. Good night.